Picture a life so steeped in privilege that you believe no misstep could ever dim your shine. A world where wealth, titles, and royal lineage shield you from the fallout of your actions, even when they devastate a nation's economy and tarnish a dynasty's ancient legacy. This was the reality for Prince Andrew, the Duke of York, born into the lap of royal luxury, cradled by the unyielding protection of the British monarchy. For decades, he thrived in a gilded bubble, his mistakes brushed aside as mere quirks, his excesses excused as the perks of royalty. But then came a seismic revelation, a scandal so explosive it shattered his carefully crafted image and stripped away the privileges that defined him. What was this bombshell? Who delivered the crushing news? And how did it unravel the life of a man who thought himself untouchable? Stay with us to uncover the saga of Prince Andrew, a tale of hubris, scandal, and a fall from grace that rocked the monarchy and left a prince grappling with a world that no longer bowed to him. Born on February 19, 1960, to Queen Elizabeth II and Prince Philip, Andrew Albert Christian Edward was the third child and second son of Britain's royal family, a position that granted him a life of pomp and protection. As a young man, he was the spare to Prince Charles's heir, a role that came with freedom but also scrutiny. He served with distinction as a Royal Navy helicopter pilot during the 1982 Falklands War, earning a heroic sheen that bolstered his public image as the dashing Duke of York. With titles, patronages, and a ceremonial role as a working royal, Andrew moved through life with the confidence of a man who believed consequences were for others. He mingled with global elites, hosted lavish events, and represented Britain abroad, his every step cushioned by the monarchy's prestige. Yet, beneath this polished exterior, a storm was brewing, one tied to his association with a figure whose name would become synonymous with infamy: Jeffrey Epstein. The first cracks appeared not in courtrooms or headlines, but in a single, catastrophic television interview that would redefine Andrew's life. In November 2019, he sat down with BBC's Newsnight for what he hoped would be a chance to clear his name. Instead, it became a masterclass in self-destruction. Facing questions about his ties to Epstein, a convicted sex offender, and allegations by Virginia Giuffre, who claimed Andrew assaulted her as a teenager, he offered a bizarre litany of defenses: a visit to Pizza Express in Woking, a medical inability to sweat, and vague claims of memory lapses. His tone was detached, almost flippant, as if royal status could deflect the gravity of the accusations. The public didn't hear contrition, they heard arrogance. The interview wasn't just a misstep, it was a guillotine. Social media erupted with mockery, memes dissecting his Pizza Express alibi, and commentators dubbed it a car crash and nuclear disaster. Overnight, the war hero and royal son became a punchline, his credibility shredded. The fallout was swift and merciless. Within days, Buckingham Palace announced Prince Andrew would step back from public duties, a euphemism for exile from royal life. His military titles, honorary roles with regiments like the Grenadier Guards, were stripped one by one in a quiet but deliberate dismantling. Over 150 patronages, from charities to universities, severed ties, unwilling to be tainted by association. His HRH, His Royal Highness, title, while not formally revoked, was barred from official use, reducing him to a duke in name only. Polls reflected the public's verdict. A 2020 YouGov survey found 67% of Britons wanted his remaining titles gone, with only 5% viewing him favorably. In York, the city tied to his dukedom, residents demanded his title be rescinded, with 70% supporting the move and local councils revoking honors like the freedom of the city. Schools and institutions once proud of his name scrubbed it from their records, a symbolic erasure of a once celebrated figure. The monarchy, ever mindful of its image, acted with clinical precision, distancing itself from a prince whose presence now threatened its legacy. What deepened the wound was new evidence that contradicted Andrew's claims. A 2011 email, allegedly sent to Epstein, surfaced, suggesting a shared strategy to weather the storm, with Andrew reportedly writing, "We're in this together." This private correspondence clashed starkly with his public assertion of having cut ties with Epstein years earlier, painting a picture of loyalty to a disgraced financier rather than accountability. The email wasn't just a revelation. It was a betrayal of the contrition he failed to offer. Giuffre's allegations, part of a civil lawsuit, culminated in a 2022 settlement, reportedly costing millions. Some say up to £12 million, partially funded by the Queen to avoid a trial. The settlement wasn't an admission of guilt, but to the public, it looked like privilege buying silence, further eroding trust. Behind closed doors, Andrew's behavior only fueled the narrative of entitlement. Former palace staff, quoted in outlets like Vanity Fair and royal biographies such as The Rise and Fall of the House of York, described a man prone to petty tyrannies. The story of his 72 teddy bears, meticulously arranged with laminated instructions for maids, became a viral symbol, not of eccentricity, but of a man-child demanding perfection in trivialities. Staff recounted his rages over minor infractions, a misplaced bear, a nylon tie worn by an aide, even a mole on a servant's face leading to dismissal. He once berated a staffer as an imbecile for misaddressing the Queen Mother, a tantrum that echoed beyond palace walls. Protection officers were summoned to fetch golf balls, tissues dropped on the floor expected to be retrieved by maids 4 floors below, and curtains opened by others, as if Andrew couldn't fathom doing it himself. These weren't quirks. They were a pattern of cruelty, a refusal to see others as equals, revealing a character unmoored from accountability. Social media amplified the scorn, with users calling him a pompous ass, entitled brat, and manchild. The teddy bear saga mocked as grotesque rather than quaint. The public, once charmed by his royal aura, now saw hubris, a prince who treated staff as props and privilege as armor. Inside the royal family, the mood was equally grim. King Charles, ascending in 2022 after Queen Elizabeth's death, prioritized modernizing the monarchy, and Andrew became a liability to contain, not a brother to protect. His appearances at family events, like Prince Philip's 2022 memorial, sparked outrage, with headlines screaming, "Why is he back?" The Queen's decision to let him escort her to that event, a nod to maternal loyalty, was a miscalculation that undid months of damage control. Charles, determined to avoid such blunders, excluded Andrew from the 2023 coronation spotlight. No uniform, no balcony, just a seat among the crowd, his presence barely tolerated. Financially, the blows were crushing. His £250,000 annual allowance and taxpayer-funded security were slashed, with Charles reportedly pressing him to downsize from Royal Lodge, his sprawling Windsor estate. Maintaining the 30-room mansion became a struggle without royal funds, a symbol of a lifestyle he could no longer afford. Yet Andrew clung to it, fighting for space and relevance, believing time might soften the public's disdain. He was wrong. Every attempt at redemption, quiet charity work, hints at private philanthropy, backfired, reigniting media fury and public disgust. The 2024 Netflix film Scoop, dramatizing the Newsnight interview, forced him to relive his humiliation, with critics praising its portrayal of his arrogance as painfully accurate. The messenger of his downfall wasn't a single person but a collective force: the public, the media, and the palace itself. It began with Emily Maitlis, the Newsnight journalist whose probing questions exposed his detachment, but it was cemented by the world's reaction. Legal warnings from attorney Paul Tweed, ignored by Andrew's team, predicted the interview's disaster, yet Andrew pressed on, convinced his royal status would shield him. When the palace issued its final statement in January 2020, Prince Andrew will no longer undertake public duties and will defend this case as a private citizen. It was a death knell for his royal life. King Charles delivered the institutional verdict, stripping titles and funding, while the public's voice, amplified by polls and protests, ensured his exile was permanent. Inside Royal Lodge, Andrew became a ghost in his own story, his staff reduced, his phone silent, his invitations non-existent. Even his daughter's weddings posed dilemmas. Could he attend without overshadowing them? The answer was often no, a quiet rejection that cut deep. Biographers like Andrew Loney argue he's learned nothing, still craving the uniforms and salutes that defined him, unable to grasp that his privileges are gone for good. The monarchy, wary of further damage, views him as a stain on its brand, with calls to strip his Duke of York title growing louder. His financial ruin, legal settlements, and eroded status paint a man trapped by his own entitlement, pacing a shrinking world. The teddy bear anecdotes, once dismissed as gossip, now define him. A prince undone by his own demands, from stuffed toys to moral failings. What remains of a man who built his life on unearned power when that power is revoked? Not a cliffhanger, but a reckoning, a slow erosion of reputation, a steady drip of evidence, and a palace that whispers its judgments. Andrew didn't just lose his titles. He lost the illusion that royalty could save him. The world, in turning away, delivered the final blow, leaving him invisible in a life built to be seen. What do you make of this fall from grace? Is there redemption for a man who clings to privilege over accountability? Share your thoughts below. And if this tale of scandal and consequence gripped you, like, subscribe, and dive into more stories of those who rose high only to crash hard.